Hi, my name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Director Christopher Frierson. And we're here to talk about the upcoming STARZ series, the BMF documentary, Blowing Money Fast. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thanks.
Yes, Chris, I did get to actually watch 6 of the episodes, so I'm almost there. It's really, really, really interesting. Such a deep dive into this world of BMF. Why do you think so many people are so captivated by this family and the Flenory story?
I think one of the main reasons is because their enterprise was so much bigger than, foundationally it was a criminal organization.
Hmm.
But I think that they, more so than typical gangs or criminal organizations, expanded beyond the typical sort of nature of those sorry, I'm not speaking correctly, of gangs and that sort of activity. And the brotherhood and the family aspects and the sort of generosity of sort of spirit that existed within the framework of something that is negative is particularly unique. And then obviously, because of their inroads in the entertainment industry, they are kind of like at the crossroads of, rappers wanting to be in the street and
Yes.
wanting to be rappers.
Hmm.
It's like the perfect intersection that happened at the perfect time.
Hmm.
To So Meech becomes this person, and then his organization, when you look at it a little bit more, becomes something that's sort of aspirational.
Hmm. It's really interesting because just like you said, I think that a lot of times when we think about, let's just say like the criminal underworld or someone making this kind of money or making a lot of money, I don't think anybody really thought that they're making money on the scale that they were. But as
Right,
you said, a lot of times people keep things very local, but they really just, it was kind of like almost like franchises. So these are
right,
people that could have very capably ran a Fortune 500 company from the ground up, just as
right.
well as they did, a criminal organization.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that's something that Meech himself says that they were trying to do.
Hmm.
Near, I think it was just a little bit too late, because of how huge they were. But in terms of the organization itself, it's to my knowledge the only enterprise that had rival gangs. You had Crips, Bloods, you had
Hmm.
white dudes from the middle of nowhere in Georgia. You had all these different types of people coming together, for a singular goal, which is A, yes, to make money, but it's also B, um, to become part of a family.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these people that we spoke to, um, that is something that was missing in their lives. And obviously, as we know, a lot of people join criminal organizations for
For
some
that
semblance
reason.
of family. Um, this one just seemed to be like a more fun family to
Hmm.
join
Hmm.
than most.
Yeah, even like it's when everybody's speaking about it, Cavario said exactly that. He said that if this was a family for people, they didn't have that connection. And just the way that Meech was so generous. Chartering a plane to take everybody and whoever can come along who can take off work, strippers, rappers, any
Mhm.
neighbors to go hang out in Mexico, like that's just unheard of. No one does that for anyone.
Right.
And I think what particularly touched me was seeing White Boy when he was talking about his brother with cerebral palsy. It was like
Mhm.
Meech always made sure that he got into the club first. He always was able to hang out. He was always able to, and he was just choked up thinking about that somebody looked at his brother like, yo, you're always going to come along with. As long as I have a seat at the table, so will you. So that's very
Right.
touching. So it's interesting to see that dichotomy of a person that's running this kind of an organization, but then also providing such an emotional, like, a feeling kind of that offers something that was a void in other people's lives.
Right. And I think that oftentimes it's easy for us to paint people in one way because
Hmm.
it's just easy to process. But two things can exist at the same time,
Hmm.
and that's what, you know, when you look at what Meech and what those guys did, speaking of generosity, in terms of Atlanta, just in general, how they changed the landscape of Atlanta for, I would say, the better in a lot of different ways,
Hmm.
changed people's lives, and made Atlanta. It was part and parcel of making Atlanta the sort of cultural mecca that, it is today. You know, that to me, it speaks volumes as to the two different things existing at the same time, because it's on the back of pain, let's be honest, to to a certain extent. But I think the giving back, we talked to several people who not even on camera, who just exist in Atlanta, just like those were bumper years. Like those things were okay if you worked in the service industry, or had a barbershop, those type of things.
I can actually remember being a broke kid just out there, like doing the free before 11, like, hopefully I can get in here. And I was that kid. And I'll never forget being in Atlanta, and it'll be like, BMF is in the building, everybody's drinks is free. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like I lived that moment, not with them, but I've been a part of that in a small way. So I can actually say, like, I saw that myself too. Like, I didn't even know who they were. I just knew that they were always giving everybody everything.
Right.
But I want to go ahead. No.
I was gonna say 2 Chainz says, made this comment. He was just like, we didn't know who they were either. Like, and they definitely weren't from Atlanta, like the way that they were acting. But we knew that, like, they I mean, this is a nascent 2 Chainz, Titty Boy 2 Chainz. Like we just knew that, like, these dudes seemed all right, like, and we couldn't like flex on them because of just how they were moving.
I want to talk about too, like, because you were able to assemble so many people here. We have, celebrities like 2 Chainz, you have T.I., all these different people, but you also have law enforcement, and you were able to get family members as well. And then you also have overlaying the Meech's, his commentary from jail. But how do how does the family look upon you speaking to law enforcement, or just was there any kind of a rift or anything because of some sort of the complicated relationships here?
I think that Meech understood, it's kind of the way that he even gets caught. It's like he doesn't go down in a rain of fire or anything. Right. I think that there is a mutual sort of, even while this is going on, respect might be a strong word with law enforcement. I think obviously they knew they were doing things that were wrong.
Yeah.
They knew it was someone else's job to try to catch them. So I feel like the family and everybody really wanted to tell a true story, and to tell a true story, you need both sides of the fence. But even with some of the police and law enforcement, they had the respect for those guys.
Yeah, clearly, yeah, you could see that.
And they were like, so it becomes sort of the animosity when you're doing wrong and someone's job is to catch you. Your job is to do the wrong thing. Their job is to do the right thing. If you're a level-headed human being, you have to understand the situation.
In a strange way, it's just sort of like it's like growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that anybody that lives in that world ever thinks that they're going to have a permanent reign. It doesn't work like that.
You grew up in Atlanta?
No, I actually went to college in Atlanta. So again, I was in Atlanta. I was like 17 years old in Atlanta, Okay. I went in Atlanta and I was like, okay, wow, cool place. Like, it's so great. I'm here in the AUC and it's like so wonderful and so forth. And then I'm just like, again, like I said, we're like trying to get places and we're like trying to sneak in before, they're like, oh yeah, I'm 21. Sure I am, Right. And then again, you would see that BMF had this, you would see the billboards, like, I'm like, who are these people? Right. So I never really understood, but you always saw them. So they always, and I wasn't in that world, but I was familiar from it in a really peripheral way. Like, it was just kind of like it, like, like you said, they changed the landscape, but it's like they changed the culture, right? But it didn't feel negative. You knew something was amiss, but you didn't necessarily feel like it was negative.
Right.
I guess it depends on who's telling the story. But another thing I thought that was really interesting is that you don't often hear is that with their story, they were not looking to lead like a violent outfit. Right. Violence occurs in a world like this, but it was very important to them that they weren't leading with that kind of, that bloody hand.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to drug dealers in Atlanta who lived through that time period, and they were like, yeah, it was weird because everything, the violence quelled. to a certain
Mm,
extent. Which is not to say that there wasn't violence at
right.
all, but I think it's an understanding as an organization that violence is not, I don't want to say it's completely altruistic, but there's got
Hmm.
to be an understanding that violence does nothing but aid the police and cause problems. Whereas generosity and, changing a community for giving people opportunities, this, that, and the other thing.
That's a good
Um,
point. Yeah.
People will look the other. People are not trying to really call the cops on people who just gave them $200 to wash their car for 5 minutes.
No, that's true. I mean, whenever I look at things like this, and especially when I look at the hierarchy of these types of organizations, I always liken it or try to relate it to like the actual corporate world. And it
Mhm.
would seem to me, if you work, like, let's say we worked at a store, like a retail store or something like that, like Meech comes off as a really affable boss and the kind of boss that like you wouldn't want to disappoint him or let him down because
Right,
he's not ruling with an iron fist. He's just like
right.
you'd be disappointed to let someone like that down that has never let you down. Yeah. So
Because the company retreat's going to be amazing. You're going to work harder
exactly.
because everyone around you is happy.
Right, exactly. So it's like, okay, well, I heard from accounting he might be skimming, but you know what? I don't
Right.
even care about
That does
that.
not
That
affect
ain't got
me.
nothing to do with me.
Right,
I'm the
right,
greeter. I don't have nothing to do with that. You keep that stuff
right.
over there.
Conversely, the customers of said company are like, oh, everyone here is really pleasant. It's like
Right.
when you walk in Chick-fil-A and everyone's
I
like,
was
hello, how's it
gonna
going?
exactly. Oh my God, your pleasure too. What's my pleasure? I get they run such an efficient machine, and you're right. It's like that. I've never seen anybody unhappy at Chick-fil-A. So I get joy out of even if I have to wait a little bit longer. I'm like, I'm sitting in my car, it's hot outside, and I'm
When
hungry.
my mother moved to Atlanta 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and she still texts me about her trips to Publix, how enjoyable it is.
It is exactly. There's some, yeah. Publix is also great. But by the way, Publix
Yeah,
has excellent subs and they have really great chicken. But in addition
yeah,
to Chick-fil-A's chicken. But yeah, no, there's just some places where you can just expect that everybody is always just nice or kind, or they're happy about their environment and so forth. But I wanted to ask you just kind of a little bit of a silly question. When you think about the brothers and their styles, T is much more of the reserved person, wants to sort of play the back, not really interested in being seen or even heard, just kind of wants to conduct business.
right,
And then you got Meech, who's like this really flashy guy, hanging out, partying, just kind of like the Santa of the
right.
hood. What kind of person do you think that you would be better for you under? Like, whose employ would you be under? Or who would
Misha,
you? You're that.
100%, like no doubt.
You're
I
like,
would, but I would understand Terry's situation. I'd be like,
yeah,
all right, man, but this is not going to last no matter what we do.
right, right.
So, and I think that it's easy to say that because Meech was out there like that, because of the billboard, the flashiness, that and the other thing. Um, I think that may have expedited or the downfall, but I don't think that like you had said at the top, like it wouldn't have continued um regardless. But I think who they were in Atlanta did also make them more successful, make more money, and make a legacy that we're all talking about
Hmm.
today.
And Meech is scheduled to come out of prison in less than 10 years. That's in our lifetime.
Right, right. It's a couple of years, yeah.
Yes, it's not too far off. So it'll be very interesting to see how he's received.
I think he will be, as a kid, I grew up in suburban mid Michigan.
Hmm.
I didn't know any drug dealers. I didn't know who Meech was because that's you hear his name. Young kids, like drill kids, talk about Meech.
Yeah,
Like and Nas will say something about Meech. Like that's the kind of
yeah.
presence that this person has, and I also think that like his son and all the success that he's having, I think that like
His carbon copy too.
yeah,
Mhm.
I really think what's one thing that's special about their story is, you know, his father had dreams of making it in legitimately in an entertainment world. Meech did, but his circumstances led him in a different path. And
Mhm.
I think that everything sort of has come full circle for them. with his
That
son.
is true. Yeah, that's
And he's been able to, which is true in a lot of, which is common in the Black experience writ large. It's like your grandfather had to deal with this, your father had to deal with this, so that you could do this. And I think that's evident in the positivity that kid's experiencing, and has worked hard for.
That's so true, because not only has he done BMF, but he even did a really great he did Euphoria as well. So yeah, no, he's good. He's on the right path with that. So I do wish him much success, and I thank you for this. I see, again, I saw that yeah, the DMX documentary as well. You've been working hard out there telling people stories. So
it's a lovely job.
It's a living, right? Get to be around some cool people. No, but I thank you so much. I really do.
Of course.
My name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and again, I'm here with Director Christopher Frierson, and we're talking about the upcoming STARZ series, the BMF documentary, Blowing Money Fast. It's premiering on Sunday, October 23rd at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Pacific Time, only on STARZ.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
If you want to see more content like this on blackfilm.com, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.